shape, a path where you have to ride on a spinning pineapple and Vinny from Candy's 3 in order to make it to the other side, a path where you have to juke this geometry dash icon, and the heart path. Combining all of these characters into one challenge seems pretty confusing, especially with how the door characters spawn, but thankfully both min mode and max mode are almost completely scripted in terms of how they're played. In Hopeless Pursuit, our saving grace was that there was a rough cycle that we could follow that would hit every point of interest that we needed to check in order to stay alive. And we have a similar one here. In fact, the cycle is so integral to the gameplay of min mode and max mode that to this day, as of writing the script, I've never even played the main game of One Night at Frogger's and instead just jumped straight to the max mode and learning the cycle. So let's go over how exactly one cycle in min mode and max mode works. But before we get into that, I'm going to give a quick reminder, if you're enjoying the video so far, please consider subscribing. It helps more than anything. But of course, only do so if you're enjoying the video so far. Okay, I won't lie to you guys, the cycle for min mode and max mode is super complicated to learn. But once you have it down, it's really easy to follow. I'm gonna try and break it down as much as I can, because if you can understand one cycle, you can understand the entire night. The cycle is all centered around Yi-Boy. As you'll come to see throughout this video, Yi-Boy is without question the hardest character in min mode and especially max mode. Essentially, we're going to have to find specific points where we know Yi-Boy is vulnerable and can be hit with a bus, then deal with everyone else in between the times that we're sending buses. Thankfully, min mode is built completely around this cycle and has the buses highlighted whenever you should send them in order to hit Yi-Boy. As you can see, the windows that you have to send buses are extremely small. Even though Yi-Boy is like kind of fat, Yi-Boy is very good at dodging. In fact, the widest possible timing to hit Yi-Boy is 0.4 seconds, with most of the timings being 0.2 second windows. I don't know about you guys, but that speed is scaling above like everything ever. When the night first starts, you'll have to send bus 4 anywhere from 2.0 to 2.3 seconds, but this is only needed at the very start of the night. Once this bus hits Yi-Boy, we're going to repeat the same pattern for buses throughout the night. Each full cycle of buses lasts exactly 35 seconds, and within those 35 seconds, we have 3 barrages or groupings of buses with 2 buses each. In the first barrage, we send bus 2 and 3, in the second barrage we send bus 5 and 4, and in the last barrage we send buses 4 and 3. If sent correctly, you'll be able to keep Yi-Boy at bay. However, it's not that simple when everyone else is active. We see this as early as the first barrage, when we have to send buses 2 and 3. Because of the nature of the cycles, we don't have to remember exactly when to send each bus. We just have to remember the last digit and the decimal place for the interval. So we pull up the cameras and send bus 2 from 2.4 to 2.6. On the other 2 barrages, we would stay in the cameras and wait to send the second bus before dropping them. But the 2-3 barrage is special in that we send the buses while we camera flip. Remember earlier how I was talking about Maximum 56, this bomb guy? We don't want to hit him with any buses, and we're guaranteed to miss him so long as we always flip twice on every barrage. On the second and third barrage, we just do an extra flip after we send both buses. But here, it's better to do it within the barrage. That way we can get a little extra time played on the song during this barrage. You'll notice as we drop the cameras that we now have to deal with Frogger's Touch Me or Leave Me Alone. In min mode, Frogger will be a bit smaller or larger depending on whether you should touch him or leave him alone to make him a little easier. But it's still important to get used to reacting to the sound cue instead of relying on his visual size. Once you send the first barrage, we turn to the right and close the door on the 7-second interval. This is the first map where Costly spawn, but we don't have to react to him quite yet. We're just setting up him and Aiden more to be on the same side of the office for later in the cycle. Now we turn back to the center and to the right again in order to get Toilet. Within the cycle, it's very important to understand exactly where you are in the cycle when you're doing Toilet's paths. By himself, Toilet is easily one of the hardest characters in the game, but you also have to keep track of exactly how much time you spend within the path in order to stall Aiden more. Bear with me here because this is going to get a little complicated, but I promise it'll make sense once we talk about a complete cycle. You see, Aiden Moore is stalled whenever you're looking at his hallway, as we've already discussed, including when he's behind Toilet in that same hallway. So, on any of the paths here highlighted within the cycle, you're going to want to stall for as long as possible when making your way through Toilet's path, so you can have more time with Aiden later. You can use the slap sound the Toilet makes when he approaches as a metric. For these right side paths, you're going to want to do them in 5 slaps in order to stall Aiden. Thankfully, this first path is a freebie, as Aiden is currently on the other side of the office, so we can do this in any amount. Now we're going to have to send the second barrage, 1.3 to 1.5 for bus 5, and 2.3 to 2.5 for bus 4. For me, this is the easiest barrage, as the timings for the buses are exactly 1 second apart, making it pretty easy to time out. Once you send the bus 4 in the second barrage, you're going to have to rush a bit. Matt will be waiting at the left door to lunge at you, and if you're not fast enough with Code and Frogger, he'll get you in the office before you even have a chance to turn to his side. So we have to process and take out Code as fast as possible. In mid mode, you can just look for the frog that has 20 HP and explode Code with it, as the highest damage frog will always be equal to Code's HP. Then, without any hesitation, flick to the left to turn, then slam your cursor on the door button for Matt. In mid mode, Matt gives you 0.1 seconds of wait time, then begins lunging at you. His lunge animation lasts 9 frames, giving you a total of 0.25 seconds to close the door on him once you've turned to his side. Immediately after closing the door on Matt, you're going to have to keep rushing. Turn back and forth so you can trigger toilet, then do the left path as fast as you can, ideally around 3 to 4 slaps. Now, prepare to send the final barrage of buses for Ye-Boy. Bus 4 on 9.5 to 9.8, and Bus 3 on 9.9 to 0.1. In my opinion, this is the hardest barrage to hit timing-wise, as the intervals aren't spaced out evenly. You just kinda have to get used to the click pattern and ingrain it in your muscle memory. Once you finish this barrage, Aiden will be waiting at your left door. To conserve power, you can try and wait until you think his timer is just about to run out, then turn to the left side and shut the door on him. Personally, I don't find power to be too much of an issue, so I usually play it pretty safe with Aiden. When the doors close, you'll hear a bonk indicating to his left. Now, turn to the other side of the room and get toilet's next path. At this point, Aiden will be on the right side of the office, so you're going to have to stall out this path for as long as you possibly can, preferably in 5 slaps. As you return to the center, flip twice in order to offset maximum, then wait until the next 1.5 or 6.5 second mark on your timer and prepare to flick for Matt. Once you turn back to get toilet again, you'll be ready to send the next 2 and 3 barrage to start the next cycle. In my opinion, this 2 and 3 barrage is the hardest part of the cycle. You have to time this super tight bus 2, then between sending bus 2 and 3, you have to recognize what Code's value is and whether or not you should touch Frogger before pulling the cameras back up to send bus 3. Once you send bus 3, you have to explode Code as fast as possible. Otherwise, Aiden will get you from the right. This is why we had to stall out those toilet paths for as long as possible, as Aiden will be crawling into the office at this point from the right side. Most times, I was barely catching him. From here, we just repeat that same 35-second loop for the entire night. So yeah, all that talking was just for one singular 35-second cycle. Thankfully, there isn't any variation between cycles aside from the paths that toilet is on, and even those loop back around eventually. When I actually began attempting min mode, it was a bit of a shock, honestly. You see, min mode by itself is still very difficult. In my opinion, it's a bit harder than 5020 NDC from UCN Deluxe. For me, the hardest part of min mode was just learning the cycle, then staying consistent throughout the entire night. In the Hopeless Pursuit video, I spent a lot of time ranking characters based on difficulty within the max modes, building up the Hopeless Pursuit and Hopeless Greed. And I think it was super interesting seeing how the rankings change as the modes get harder. With only 7 characters here, I can spend a little more time going into the intricacies of what makes certain characters difficult. So let's talk about who's the easiest and hardest in min mode. Personally, I found Maximum, Code, and Matt to be interchangeable as the easiest characters within the night. Code's mechanic could be difficult if the night randomized. More on that one later too. But because min mode always has the exact same value for the highest damaging frog, you just need to see which frog equals 20 and hit him with that. Matt I thought would be somewhat challenging, but turned out to be extremely easy. Even though you only have 0.25 seconds to follow on him, the hitboxes in min mode are very forgiving. You can visually not even be close to the door button, but still be within the hitbox to close it. Maximum functionally doesn't even exist as long as you follow the cycle, but I guess you could say he makes Frogger and Ye-Boy a bit harder, as you have to hold an initial climb after every barrage. With these three at the bottom, I'd say the next hardest character would be Aiden. He's not an issue because he consumes power, or even waiting on him to leave since he makes a very noticeable sound to you when he does. It's more so just him forcing you to stall on the toilet paths, and being right at your door when you're doing the 2-3 barrage. After Aiden, I'd say Frogger would be next. Even though he's made visually smaller and harder to hit when you're not supposed to hit him, this character perfectly capitalizes on your brain fart moments, and oftentimes I just found myself touching him out of instinct for literally no reason.
What the f***'s wrong? Why? Why'd you do it? Why did you do it? I don't even... Oh, what, bro?
Next up is Toilet Frog. I think no matter who you ask, this is the most agreed upon character to be in at least the top 3. You spend more time on this character than anyone else by a long shot, and having to master all of the toilet's paths on both the right and left side requires a good bit of consistency and aim. I'm going to take a bit of time here to admire the design of min mode and max mode here, because I think Toilet Frog mechanically is one of the most genius characters I've ever seen implemented in a max mode. You see, with mouse movements in any kind of game, there are generally two kinds of movements: flicking and tracking. Oftentimes in games like Counter-Strike or Valorant, movements are more focused on flicks and corrections, with short interactions where a victor is determined by who has the more insane reaction time and precision. Whereas games like Fortnite or modern Call of Duty games favor a more tracking movement, where you're slowly moving your mouse on a target and tracking them as you try to avoid your line of fire. Every character in One Night at Froggers is flick-based. You have to flick the door buttons for Matt and Aiden, the camera buttons for E-Boy, and the HP frogs for Code. But Toilet forces you to slow down and also perfect that control aspect of mouse precision. And it can be a real shock when you have to go from flick to control on such short notice, especially with how much stricter the paths get in max mode. I know I'm like nerding out here about mouse precision in a FNAF game, but this is like the coolest thing ever to me, so please let me have this one. Whether it was an intentional design choice or not, I think it turned out great. So we have our list, aside from one very special character. In all the time that I've been playing these stupid FNAF challenges, I have never seen a character carry the difficulty of a game as much as Gng Man. Is outrageous in this game. I know I've touched on before how he works, but I don't think I really stressed enough how difficult this character really is. E-Boy is miles ahead of everyone in difficulty, and trust me, it only gets so much worse. Let's talk about this for a second. So we have 3 barrages of buses per cycle, which comes out to 6 buses that we have to send. So that's 6 buses per cycle. Now, the night and mid mode